Hey guys, how's it going? It's Phil. Welcome to another video. Today we are posing a question. What if Intel had released a Super Socket 7 processor, and what could be the reasons for them not doing so? Previously on PhilsComputerLab, we checked out various Slot 1 processors, had a look at some tutorials for configuring Windows 98 MS-DOS mode as well as boosting DOS graphics performance, and we checked out retro gaming on an NVIDIA Quadro workstation card. Just to clarify, the processor we are looking at today doesn't exist. It is simulated through overclocking. Intel's final Socket 7 desktop CPU was the Pentium MMX 233 with a frontside bus of 66 MHz. For consumers, the Pentium 2 for Slot 1 was the next platform to upgrade to, but AMD hung on to the Socket 7 platform, raising the frontside bus to 100 MHz, and Super Socket 7 was born. Throughout this video you can see gameplay footage of this simulated Intel Super Socket 7 CPU just to see how it handles games.
I live again.
Blood is a DOS game and we're running it at 640 by 480. It runs perfectly. I have no complaints about this game running on this machine. Now, we have some issues with the sound. It basically stops working right after the start, and that is basically a PCI sound card for you. Certain DOS games just have issues with PCI sound cards. Now, 1997 was a crazy year when it comes to processors. Lots of price cuts and processor models were released, so I picked August of 1997, mostly because I found really good data in terms of prices for this time period. So let's have a look at the competition, what was available. We have the Pentium MMX running at 233 MHz. We've got the Pentium Classic running at 200 MHz. And of course, Intel just launched the new Pentium 2 platform with CPUs running at 233, 266 and 300 MHz. And AMD also just launched the K6 range running at 166, 200 and 233 MHz. So let's have a look at some CPUs that were available in August of 1997. So we're looking at DOS low resolution, DOS 640 by 480 and also Windows gaming performance. Clearly, the Pentium 2 was in another league. It's definitely the much faster performing platform. That's what people upgraded to, that wanted to go next generation and have something high-end. The Pentium MMX is strongest in DOS games running at 640 by 480. However, in DOS games that run at the lower 320 by 200 resolution and also in Windows games, the brand new K6 CPU from AMD was serious competition, with the K6 233 being the faster processor in many benchmarks. Screamer 2 runs also at 640 by 480 and offers two color modes at 16-bit colors. It is a bit of a challenge for the CPU. Now, all the past videos, Screamer 2 was always running in 16 bits. So if we switch over to 8-bit colors, we can see that it feels a bit smoother and that we're getting better performance with this game. Now, pricing is just as important as performance, and 1997 was crazy. Lots of price cuts. It seems that every quarter Intel slashed prices and then all the competitors had to adjust theirs as well. In terms of prices, we can see that the Pentium 2 demanded a premium, but that was fine. It also offered premium performance. The Pentium MMX 233 clearly seems to be too expensive. Looking at the performance, especially how it stacks up against the K6 233, I know that back in the day, if I had to make a choice, I would have definitely picked the K6. In terms of value for money, it's the better processor. So let's have a look. How does Intel Super Socket 7 CPU would compare against the Socket 7 competition? We can see it would have definitely been the fastest CPU. Now, do keep in mind that this is based on August of 1997. Not too much later, AMD would do a die shrink on the K6 and release faster models running at 266 and 300 MHz. So Intel would definitely have to raise clock speeds in order to stay competitive. Let's compare the Intel SuperSocket 7 CPU against the Pentium 2. Well, it's clear the Pentium 2 is faster. Despite having a lower clock speed, it basically is much stronger across the board. It doesn't matter if it's DOS high resolution or Windows. Now, no doubt that Intel would have tested all of this. So they, in terms of performance at least, they made the right move, and it made a lot more sense to abandon Socket 7 and move on to slot 1. You have to check the stability whenever you overclock a CPU. At the default 2.8 volts, I did get a crash once, and raising the voltage to 3 volts solved that, and I could complete all the benchmarks without any issues. GL Quake, now this game doesn't need any introduction. It's based on the DOS version of Quake, but runs under Windows and offers 3D accelerated graphics. It runs very well, however the FPS do fluctuate and we are getting dips below 60 FPS. Still, it is a very playable game on this machine. So let's summarize everything. This hypothetical SuperSocket 7 processor is stronger in DOS games. Anything to do with low resolution should run perfect. High resolution DOS games, it does depend a little bit. Blood, Duke Nukem 3D and Need for Speed will run fine, but Screamer 2 or Tomb Raider will definitely struggle. Early 3D Windows games should also be very playable, but anything that is a little bit more modern will quickly start to struggle on this CPU. So there's a clear benefit of having a higher clock speed and most importantly the higher frontside bus. However, would Intel have been able to ramp up the clock speed as fast as AMD? AMD took it all the way to around 570 MHz for their K6-2 range. Let's have a look at some reasons why Intel didn't launch a SuperSocket 7 CPU. Looking at previous sockets like on the 386, 486 and Socket 7, it was just a drop-in replacement for other processors. You can basically buy an Intel motherboard and put an AMD CPU in the socket. And the Socket 7 CPU was the last shared socket with AMD. AMD didn't have the legal rights to use any future sockets or slots. I think that Intel couldn't wait to move on and leave AMD in the cold, so to speak. So AMD was forced to design their own sockets, slots and specifications, and that was definitely a move to make it harder for AMD.
Let's take him out.
Starlancer is a much newer game, was released in 2000 and made by Chris Roberts and his brother Aaron, and you can definitely tell the origins from the Wing Commander franchise. It runs well most of the time. However, when there are busy scenes with lots of ships on the screen or large enemy ships, the FPS does go down. Still, you could call this game be playable on this machine.
There's an early warning station on the edge of the asteroid belt. We can warn to Yamato from south. Jump system online.
The other reason is making more money. Intel could have definitely made a processor for existing users to upgrade their Socket 7 CPUs, but they could make a lot more money by selling them a brand new motherboard with a new Intel chipset and a new Intel CPU that sells for a premium. AMD, on the other hand, went ahead with the Socket 7 platform, raised the frontside bus to 100 MHz and had a very successful range with the K6-2. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think? Should Intel have released a SuperSocket 7 CPU, or was it best to just move on to the slot 1? On the screen are links to some other videos that you might find interesting. As always, please subscribe, share, like or dislike this video. I do read every comment, so share your thoughts down below. See you next week with another video.